Gruesome Magazine.
Hey everybody, Dave here. Got a little special treat for you today. I don't do a lot of these type of interviews. So my friend Anthony here has the honor of being one of the first authors I've ever interviewed on a video interview for Gruesome Magazine. So I want y'all to welcome Anthony Northrup. Anthony is author of Stephen King, Dollar Baby, the book. There it is. There it is. I got. You know what? You're gonna have to yell at Amazon. I actually ordered mine off Amazon. It has not shown up yet. So, but I did. I read it through Scribd. Like an ebook type of thing.
Yeah.
So I read it through that, and I thought, okay, this has got to be in my collection. And I ordered it, and it still hasn't shown up. So, get on the horn, Anthony.
It's coming.
So, lots of questions for you here. First up. Obviously, huge Stephen King fan, right? I know you have a history with like a Stephen King group on Facebook.
Yeah, it's called All Things King. I've been running it for 11 years now with over 5,400 members. Share that or not, but basically fans from around the world come there and we talk about Stephen King. I try to make it as exciting and fun as possible with games, trivia, breaking news. I also like to bring some of King's works to the forefront that aren't popular. I mean, there's just so many times you can talk about It and The Stand and The Shining. I mean, every fan page out there repeats themselves, but we like to bring out stuff that you don't normally talk about. And people really like that because, I mean, just the other day I was spotlighting Hearts in Suspension, which is a King book about his college years. And there was a long list of people commenting saying, I never even knew that book existed. So that's why we like to have our page be a little different than others. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I've got to ask you, this is totally off subject, so I apologize. And it just popped into my head. But one of my most valued Stephen King collectibles that I have, and I don't hear anybody ever talk about this, is a book called My Pretty Pony.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever seen anything about My Pretty Pony?
Oh yeah. My Pretty Pony was originally it came out as an limited edition book. It was a really big book.
That's the one I have. It's in a slipcase. Yeah.
And it's got a I don't know if you've got the one that has the digital clock inside the casing of the cover. There was
I'll have to. Honestly, it's been so. I actually keep it locked up in a safe spot. Because in my mind, for whatever reason, it's valuable. I don't know if it is or not, but in my mind, it's valuable.
If it's the one with the digital clock inside the cover itself, then yeah, you want to hold on to that bad boy.
My mother bought it for me at Walden Books. I don't even know why. I don't even know why they had it. It was just kind of there. It was wrapped up, and back. We were going back 30 years ago, 25 years ago. Yeah. So again, I've never, and I mentioned it to people, and they're like, "What?" So yeah, it's nice that you know about it.
It was a limited edition thing, and then the story itself was in Nightmares and Dreamscapes. Right. And then it was also made into a Dollar Baby film. A couple of people did it, but the one version that I saw was absolutely beautifully filmed. It was from a foreign country, and it's very well done. So yeah. Okay,
we're getting off the subject, but that's good. It brought us back to the book, which is what we're here to discuss. Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming the website was kind of the catalyst, or the Facebook group was the catalyst for wanting to write this book, or is this something that you had in mind before the Facebook group ever came to fruition?
Well, how it all came about was I wrote for our local newspaper for over 10 years. And during that time, I did a lot of celebrity interviews and film reviews and book reviews. And in 2013, I started doing Dollar Baby interviews, and how that came about was I was on the, well, let me backtrack a few seconds here. I went through my Stephen King scholars years where I wanted to learn about King's works, not just read his books or watch his movies. I wanted to know more about him, So I read the Stephen Spignesi book, The Complete Stephen King Encyclopedia. And in there's a chapter about Dollar Babies and an interview with James Cole, who was one of the original Dollar Baby directors, first generation, as I like to call it. And I'm like, what is a Dollar Baby? I didn't even know what that was. And then coincidentally, just a matter of a couple of months later on social media, I saw Billy Hansen make a comment on a Stephen King fan page about his Dollar Baby film called Survivor Type, which is based on King's story. And I asked him, I said, hey, Billy, can I interview you and review your film? He said, yeah, sure. So I did. And he was so impressed and he liked it so much that he told his Dollar Baby friends. And then I started getting all these offers, and it was just a big snowball effect. So from 2013 onward, I just kept getting all these interviews from Dollar Babies. But then in 2014, I was a host of a Dollar Baby Film Fest at Crypticon Horror Convention in Minneapolis. And it was a lot of fun, and they liked it so much, they said, can you come back and do it again in 2015? So I went back there again, did it in 2015, bigger crowd, more movies to choose from to watch. And then they asked to do it again in 2016. And I said, I want to focus more on my writing, so I'm going to hold out on this time. And so from 2016 onward till 2021, all I did was just interviews like, crazy. That's all I ever did, and film reviews. And then a friend of mine, a writer friend, said, hey, you got to do something with these. These are too good to just sit on the shelf or, whatever. And I said, well, I don't have a publisher or anything. I don't know how to go about all that. And he goes, well, I have a publisher, and he's a big Stephen King fan. Then he talked to him. So we set up a meeting. We talked. He liked the idea of having a Dollar Baby book. So we signed the contract, and this book right here came out in January of 2021, and it did very well. It's still doing well. And there you go.
It's a beauty. I mean, it really is. It's an amazing compilation of information and interviews. I think, like you were at the beginning, I think a lot of other fans, they're aware of the Dollar Baby, but I was blown away by the fact that there was so freaking many of them. I had no idea. I mean, we've all heard the story that, Mick Garris did one, and Frank Darabont did one. I mean, you read that in Fango and, in the normal trades, but I had no idea there were so freaking many of them. A lot of them foreign, correct? Or from foreign countries?
There are Dollar Baby films from everywhere, from across the United States, Europe, Russia, Australia, Brazil, you name it. There's a Dollar Baby from somewhere. And that's one of the things I loved this whole program beyond words. That's one of the reasons I wrote the book too. But also the talent that's out there in this world that I've seen from these films is just mind-boggling. There's some wonderful adaptations of Stephen King short stories that are these Dollar Babies. And, some people say, well, what's your favorite? I can't answer that. I can't, because there's so many wonderful visions that were brought to the screen from these amazing, talented men and women, young and old. So, yeah.
What have you found that most people who do the Dollar Baby program, again, we know of the successes, the others just like, do they do the Dollar Baby and that's it? They're like, they're like one shot and that's it. That's all we're doing. I mean, do you get a lot of people that roll that into something else?
Well, some of the Dollar Babies have, that was their 15 minutes of fame. They went back to their 9-to-5 job, or maybe they fell on hard times, or maybe they just found something else to do with their life, whatever. And then there was some who have gone on to huge success. They've gone on to bigger movies, bigger budgets, more celebrities in their films. Some of them gone to writing books. They became authors and have written books, like Billy Hansen, for example. He's a great writer, a great storyteller. And yet he was one of the early Dollar Babies that I got to interview and meet. He really, really helped me out a lot get started. But yeah, it really just depends. Some of them, like I said, go back to their 9-to-5 jobs. Some of them go on to bigger and better things.
There's almost seems like there's a book just in that, just kind of following the paths of the Dollar Baby filmmakers.
I talk about that in the book, Dave. In this book and in the second book, I talk about what happens to these filmmakers, and some of them are success stories, and some of them are sad.
Right.
Some of them have passed away, actually, which really hurts because I've already interviewed them. Like, for example, Warren Ray. He did Maxwell Edison, which is based on King's short story, The Man Who Loved Flowers. He's in the first book, and he was able to be in the second one, and then he passed away. So it's really sad when you get close to these people, and
sure,
and tragedy strikes too.
Yeah. And interesting, you mentioned the second book. So obviously there is a sequel. Is it going to be Dollar Baby, the book, the sequel?
The first book is called Stephen King, Dollar Baby, the book. The second one is called Stephen King, Dollar Baby, the sequel. The original idea was I was going to write a trilogy, but a writer friend of mine suggested not to do that. He said, why don't you make the second book 2 books in one? And then I said, well, okay. So actually the sequel is actually a two meaning title. It's actually sequel as in part two and sequel part three. So it's actually two books in one. That's one of the reasons why it's taking a little longer for me to finish it, because it is much thicker than the first book, but it's going to wrap it up real nicely. So between those two books, I think that pretty much covers everything you'll ever want to know about Dollar Baby Films.
About the Dollar Baby Films. And it's interesting. You and I's world kind of collided over a Dollar Baby, actually, because I ended up wrapped up into the October Roses by being asked to moderate the panel at the film premiere.
Yeah.
And I reached out to you to just kind of get a little bit of information on the Dollar Baby program as a whole. And that's kind of what brought us together in a way, to a degree. Although I was aware of you from social media and stuff like that, actually reaching out to you was because of that. And I know you talked to Brandon, and he's going to be in the second book, correct?
Yes, he is. He's absolutely in the second book, along with some other surprises from October Roses. I don't want to reveal anything right now.
No, don't say anything you shouldn't say.
Sure, there's a lot of surprises in the second book. But yeah, Brandon's definitely in it for sure. He's a great guy. He's a young guy. And, when I was his age, I was working 9 to 5. I was starting a family. I was, here's this guy. He grabs a camera and he's out there making a Stephen King movie. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, it was interesting talking with him, because he managed to get Robert Kurtzman involved. And of course, everyone knows Robert Kurtzman is the K from KMB. And that was one of the questions I asked him at that premiere, was about that. And he literally just picked up the phone and asked him. I mean, it was that simple. It's like the simplest things come from just picking up the phone and asking, right?
You know what? It's amazing. It doesn't hurt to just simply ask. What's the worst the person's going to say no? Say no. And lucky for Brandon, he got a big catch when he got Robert, and he did a wonderful job on October Roses. I was able to see the film, and it is quite impressive.
Yeah, it really was something to behold. I want to get back a little bit more into your career a little bit as a writer. You said you were working for your local newspaper. Is full-time writing, was that something you always wanted to do? I mean, did you see yourself becoming just an author, or was it you just figure it was going to be something you were going to kind of do on the weekends and that type of stuff?
Well, I actually started writing as a hobby in the early 90s, around 1990, 91. Someone, I was bouncing ideas off of somebody one day, and they said, you've got some really great ideas. You should put this stuff down on paper. So I started out writing fiction stories, and I wrote 12 short stories and 7 books, but they put in a drawer and they collected dust. I never really thought I was ever going to go anywhere with it. I just did it as a hobby. But when I moved here to North Dakota, I actually got on the local newspaper to do film reviews, book reviews, promoting of any entertainment, local and celebrity interviews as well, because a lot of my celebrity friends from back in California, they said, sure, I'll do an interview with you for your paper, no problem. So I started that in 2011, writing for the local paper. And then I went from there to running the All Things King, Stephen King fan page on social media. I opened that up, and then those two things together kind of opened the door for me for other things. And then that's when I got into the Dollar Baby thing and hosting the 2 film fest at Crypticon Horror Convention in 2014 and 2015. And then I did other Stephen King Dollar Baby Film Fest in 2021 and 2022, Stephen King Rules. So yeah, everything just kind of snowballed and led me to having my first book come out in January of 2021, which was truly a dream come true. I mean, I never thought in a million years I would have seen that happen, but it did.
And that had to be an amazing feeling when that first shipment showed up on your doorstep and you opened it up and there it was with your name on the bottom. I honestly, I can't imagine how that felt. It had to be.
You know what? I'll tell you something, Dave. I can remember as clear as day. It was January 2021, and being here in North Dakota, we have our hard winters, and it was blowing snow. We had feet of snow outside, and the UPS made it down the driveway, and I knew it was this big, heavy box, and I knew what was inside, and I, part of me was so excited and everything to open it, and at the same time, I was too nervous to open it, but I saw my name on that cover, and I just, I ain't gonna lie, I cried. I'm gonna lie to you. It was an emotional moment. For sure.
Yeah, it would have to be. Well, honestly, I can't recommend it enough. It's excellent on many levels. Just the way through the interviews and the information you're able to relate these people's stories. Because at the end of the day, we're all just fans, right?
Yeah,
I mean, and that really comes through in this book, and even just your own personal story of how it came to go. Like you said, you're still working a 9 to 5 job, and yet here you are with this best-selling book on Amazon and elsewhere, I'm assuming.
yeah.
But yeah, it's just amazing. I love the story. I loved everything about this, so that's why I wanted to talk with you about it and get it out in front of the fans, because I think there's quite a few people out there yet that don't know you're out there, Anthony, and they need to be reading this book.
Uh, word's getting around. I mean, it's mind-boggling. Here we are, 2023, almost into 2024. It's still selling. It still pops up in the top 10 or 20 every so often on Amazon. I get, invites for podcasts or to pop up on as a guest on a convention or something. So it's just a mind-boggling. It's been a roller coaster. It's been surreal, and I don't know. Everybody has their dream come true, and
That's
mine
it.
did.
That's it. And this may be an impossible question to answer. This is kind of up there with the "What's your favorite Stephen King dollar baby" thing. So if you can't answer it, it's fine. But what is your most standout moment from you realizing I'm going to write this book to it getting published? What is there, one or two stand-up moments when you were just like, "Holy crap"?
There's two. There's a lot actually, but there's two. The first one was probably seeing my name on the cover of a book at Amazon, at Barnes and Noble, at all these different Goodreads, all these different web pages where you can buy it. Bear Manor Media Publishing, of course, that should be number one.
Yes, yes.
So to see that my name on a cover is just to see I can put my book on my shelf next to King's books. It's just surreal. It's mind-boggling. That very first time I held it in my hand was probably the biggest. The other thing is, and I was just talking about this with someone else today, is when I was at the Stephen King Rules Part 2 Film Festival, August of last year at Alternating Currents in Davenport, Iowa, which is a beautiful city and a wonderful, wonderful festival, by the way. I'm sitting there at dinner, and here's $3 babies who came there. They flew there to be there for the event, and they're sitting there at the table with their wives or husbands, and girlfriends or whoever, and we're all sitting at this long table. And if someone would have told me that I was going to be sitting there having dinner with $3 babies talking shop, I would have said, yeah, that's never going to happen. And it did. And I just sat there just soaking that moment in like a sponge, because here's these dollar baby directors, bringing out their cell phones, showing pictures from the set and asking each other, hey, how'd you do this scene? Well, I used a green screen on this one and I used this effect on that and blah, blah, blah. And they're all talking, and they're like kids talking about their favorite toys is what it looked like. And that moment right there, I just like, you know what? I will never forget this. This is a once in a lifetime moment.
It's like one of those surreal moments, isn't it? It just kind of, yeah.
It's been surreal since January of 2021. It hasn't stopped.
What was the first Stephen King book you read? What got you into King?
Well, actually, I was more into his movies at first before reading his works. I'm an 80s generation guy. That was my time. And I saw The Shining at 9 years old, opening weekend at the theater. I was underneath my seat the whole time. The Grady twins still scare me to this day. And so I always went to the movies when they came out. I even went to a Stephen King Film Fest on Hollywood Boulevard at 13 years old, and at this crappy movie theater where your shoe will stick to the floor, kind of a movie theater, you know what I mean? And they played 5 of his movies back to back on a Saturday. And that was a really big introduction to his works film-wise. But book-wise, to answer your question, it was in 1986 when Stand By Me came out. I didn't know he wrote that under the title The Body. And when I saw his name on the credits, I was like, whoa. And I ran out and grabbed the book right away, different seasons, and I read it cover to cover multiple times. I didn't get my first actual King novel until 89 when Pet Sematary came out, which is the scariest book I've ever read. And I was so scared I threw it across the room when I was done reading. No offense to books, but it scared me that much. And I sometimes want to take it off the shelf and revisit that. But at the same time, I'm like, I know how scary it is. I don't know if I could go back there again. And then from that point on, after Pet Sematary, I just started buying his books and anything I could get my hands on.
Yeah, it's always interesting to find out what a King fan where they first came into the world at.
Yeah.
When it came to King, I'm a little older than you, so I was around kind of at the beginning. I remember when Salem's Lot first came out, and that's what got me into things. But he's so prolific, and he puts books out so much. I mean, by the time you finish one, back in those days, especially, you finish one, he'd put out three more. So, so
Oh
you
yeah.
know, uh,
You know, back in the 80s, he was a writing machine. I mean, you couldn't keep up. I mean, I believe it was one year there was 4 books came out in one year,
yeah.
and that was before I started collecting the books. But I even looking back, I'm like, God, I couldn't have afforded to buy a book every other month as fast as he writes.
They were a little cheaper back then, but we were making a lot less money back then as well. So
That's,
you had that going for you.
yeah.
But well, Anthony, I could not be more impressed by your book, and I could not be happier for your
Thank,
success with this. We're all looking forward to the second one. Um, in the show notes for this interview, there will be links for everything for fans who have not yet read your book
mhm.
to pick it up. So, how so? Do we have a release date for the sequel?
It will be in 2024. I don't have an actual date or month yet, but it will be in 2024. I'm aiming soon. That's all I can say. Soon,
Soonish.
soon. If I may, Dave, I just want to say one thing, because a lot of people ask me this: is what would I suggest to people who want to make a Dollar Baby film? Um, from my experience from seeing these films and around the world and around different ages and so forth, it doesn't matter who you are. Go to the Dollar Baby program webpage, read the contract, sign it, pay your dollar, grab a camera, grab your friends, go make a movie, and get your vision of King's work up on a screen, because there's some amazing talent in this world who've made these films. Some have made them with a cell phone. Some of them have made them with a $60,000 budget. Some made them over the course of a weekend. Some took a whole month. And they're all over the world, from Russia to Europe to across the country. They come from everywhere, of all ages, and everyone's got their own vision of a King's story. I can't stress enough: get yours out there. If you have any craving to make a movie, start out by making one of these, and you'll be amazed where it'll take you from there.
Great advice. Great advice. And again, I think your books are going to end up kind of becoming the roadmap for a lot of people in figuring out how to do this. So,
Well, thank you.
it's yeah, it's going to end up being not only massively entertaining, but a huge resource for up and coming filmmakers. So,
Well,
good job, my friend.
thank you, Dave. I appreciate you having me on your show and all your listeners listening in. And hopefully they'll grab a copy of the book and they'll get inspired too.
Absolutely, sounds great, Anthony. I cannot thank you enough for taking time to sit and talk with me this afternoon.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
You bet. Have a great rest of your evening, sir.
Thank you. You too.